I was possessed by something from beyond this universe. Last night I received a package outside the front door of my apartment room. The sender's name was Dr. Ramirez with no return address. Curious. I took it inside and sat on my chair in the living room. After tearing the package open, I noticed multiple CDs and a letter. This is what the letter said. Dear Jacob, I've waited many years to deliver this evidence to you of your strange and unsettling possession back in early November to New Year's Eve of 1999. Why I have waited so long to do so will be explained to you on the last disc labeled number 5 Reverend Matthews Remarks. I recommend you listen to each disc in numerical order. That way you understand things more clearly. After listening to all of the discs, you may have to urge to contact your parents, but I advise against that greatly for their own mental health's sake. They need to continue to recover from what happened. I'm afraid that it will bring back terrible memories of what transpired and will open doors to some things that should never be seen again. As for Reverend Matthew, the same thing will happen. Take care. And for what has happened and might happen, I'm so sorry. Dr. Ramirez. Clearly I became confused yet a bit unsettled as well. I can barely remember what happened in the winter of 1999. No matter how hard I tried, it seemed like I kept hitting a wall. I don't even remember my family or even Dr. Ramirez mentioning anything of what happened that winter. Now I wanted to know what happened, curious to see if the CDs sitting on the coffee table could help me remember. So I got up, got my old as hell Walkman with some new earbuds, sat back on the couch and put in the first CD labeled Number 1 First Interview with the Possessing Spirit. These are my transcriptions of the CDs. Here is the transcription of CD number 1. Shuffling of what I assume is people getting seated. Sound of a middle-aged man clearing his throat. The man speaks. This is the first interview with the entity possessing Jacob Malkin. He is an 14-year-old boy. Caucasian, lives with his mother Marissa Malkin, his mother Henry Malkin, and Jacob's sister Cassie Malkin in the city of Loud Static blocks out the name in Washington state. Now, we can begin. Jacob. I am Dr. Ramirez. I'm here because your parents weren't sure what to do after they noticed you were acting strange for the past 3 weeks. They told me you seemed possessed and believe it to be true. I want to talk to whatever is possessing you, if that's all right with you. My 11-year-old self. It's all right. My voice sounds calm, but I can sense some fear in it. Dr. Ramirez. Can you bring the entity out for me? Me, yes. Dr. Ramirez. Well, I'm ready when you are. Sounds of me breathing deeply for 4 minutes. After 4 minutes pass, there is a minute of silence followed by the quiet droning of a low-pitched and distorted ringing. Dr. Ramirez. Jacob. I hear it speaks with my voice, but it's echoed. Monotone, and it sounds like it's underwater. And it sounds wrong. The entity, he is not here now. Dr. Ramirez. Am I speaking to the entity possessing Jacob's body? The entity, yes. Dr. Ramirez. You said he is not here. Where is Jacob then? The entity, his spirit is where I am from. While I take control of his body, his soul is sent to my dimension. Dr. Ramirez. Your dimension. Where is that? The entity. There are infinite dimensions. Yours is the 3rd. Mine is the 8th. Dr. Ramirez. Jacob's parents believe that you are demonic. Are you a demon? The entity. What I am is not a demon, not in your species' religions or spiritual perceptions. Dr. Ramirez. If you aren't a demon, then what are you then? The entity. An explorer. Dr. Ramirez, please be more specific. There is silence for a minute, then the entity responds. The entity. There is no need to specify to you, for now. My time speaking with you is done for now. Dr. Ramirez, why? Why must you finish talking to us? The droning ringing suddenly ceases and I am heard breathing deeply and heavily. Dr. Ramirez. Hello. Me, am I back? Is it done? I sound like I just woke up from a nightmare. Dr. Ramirez. Jacob. Me, Dr. Ramirez. What did it say? Dr. Ramirez. Well, it didn't tell us much except for it being an explorer from another dimension. According to what it told us, It's not demonic. My mother. I don't believe that for 1 second. The things it's made him do are just ... they're not good. They give me the chills. Whatever it is, it's evil. It needs to leave him now. Dr. Ramirez. I need to conduct more interviews with it. Besides, Reverend Matthews said it doesn't match with any demonic behavior ever recorded. My father. That doesn't eliminate the possibility though. Dr. Ramirez sighs. We'll have this talk later. For now, you all need some rest. The recording ends there. I was confused and a bit unsettled. My voice in that interview and whatever spoke through me sounded wrong. And not in an evil way. I'm saying that it was wrong in a weird way, just so fucking weird that it felt wrong. Like nothing human should be able to make that voice. I took out the CD and put in the next one labeled Number 2 Interview with Jacob's Parents. The recording began immediately with Dr. Ramirez talking to my parents. Dr. Ramirez. That's physically impossible. My father. Well, it happened. We both saw. Here, see for yourself. There's a single click of a button on what I assume is a TV remote. About 30 seconds of silence pass. Dr. Ramirez. What in the hell? My father, see. Dr. Ramirez. His eyes. I've never seen eyes do that before. My mother. They do that every night ever since the last night of November. At the same exact time, 11 p.m. I always go into his bedroom to make sure he's asleep. Well, he's always sitting up, facing the door, with those eyes glowing with that sickly purple. I jump, of course, but I don't feel like they're looking at me. Dr. Ramirez. What do you mean? Like he's looking beyond you? My mother. Well, yes. But not behind me, in the other room or even at the house next to ours. It's like he's looking somewhere far away. I can't describe it. Dr. Ramirez. His pupils seem to be in an odd shape. I've never seen anything like that. My mother. Looks like an octagon. His irises are purple with that strange glow. Different from his sea green eyes, of course. But the white of his eyes are gone. It's just black. A terrible black like those pupils. Dr. Ramirez. Is this the first recording of this type of phenomenon? My mother, yes. At first I just thought it was my mind playing tricks on me due to stress of the other things he's done before and the awful nightmares I've been having. Dr. Ramirez. Nightmares. My mother. Takes a deep breath. I've been getting them ever since that thing started controlling him. They're like your usual odd dream, but there's this constant feeling of being watched by something so vast. So big, bigger than the sun. Like it was the sun itself, like an eye in space. But I couldn't see it. Before I would wake up from the nightmare. That feeling becomes so overwhelming that I could scream out of pure horror. I could almost see that eye. See its exact form, its foul, horrifying details. I end up waking up Henry with this disturbing scream. Like I'm groaning and screaming at the same time. I wake up horrified, but the horror quickly subsides when I realize I'm back here. When I'm awake again. Makes me scared sometimes to fall back asleep. I've ended up taking anti-anxiety medication and sleeping aids to help me calm down enough to fall asleep. Dr. Ramirez. What time does this happen, exactly? My mother. It happens at 4 a.m, that's when I wake up. Dr. Ramirez. I'm sorry you've been going through that. What about you, Mr. Malkin? My father. Luckily I haven't had it as bad as her. When it comes to sleep. But I do feel that same feeling of being watched whenever I'm outside any building. Especially the house. It's not intense. It's kinda subtle. Makes my walks that I go on feel a bit eerie. Especially at night. Dr. Ramirez. There's not much sound that I can hear except for what seems like a ringing sound the whole time. Did you check the tape? My father. I checked it multiple times. Nothing's wrong, not that I can tell. Dr. Ramirez. Well, if it's okay, I'd like to have a copy of this tape so I can share it with an ophthalmologist I know of. And I'd like to show Reverend Matthew the tape as well to get his opinion. My father. All right. As long it helps. Dr. Ramirez. I can't promise anything, but it's better than doing nothing. We'll conduct another interview with the supposed entity in about a week. Does December 11th work for you too? Both my mother and father, yes. Dr. Ramirez. Okay. Well, I'll let you both know if I find anything. As soon as I can. Recording ends there. Okay, now I was creeped out. Why were my eyes the way my mother described? How could they be like that? What made me feel quite uneasy as well was that my mother had nightmares of being watched by some type of freaky eye, and my father felt like he was being watched too, but in the real world. Watched by something he couldn't see. I wasn't planning on sleeping that night anyways, so I decided to put the next CD in. It was labeled, Number 3 Second Interview with the Possessing Entity. The recording begins. Dr. Ramirez. This is the second interview with the entity possessing Jacob. His mother and father are joining us tonight at 8 p.m. on December 11th. Now we can. The entity already cuts Dr. Ramirez off. Begin. Dr. Ramirez. I see you came earlier than expected. I thought Jacob needed to do his usual little ritual to have you come through. The entity. I can take over whenever I need to. That ritual, form of meditation, is only needed when it is needed. Dr. Ramirez. But usually when a spirit comes through, it takes time, it takes a process. The entity. That process is limited only to the spirits you know of. It is not limited to entities such as myself. Dr. Ramirez. Are you saying there are others like you? The entity. There are many others. There are many without number. Dr. Ramirez. Are they explorers like you? The entity. Some are. Others are not. We have different yet similar purposes. Dr. Ramirez. How? The entity. Say one's purpose is a creator. Its ultimate purpose is similar to one that's purpose is a destroyer. Dr. Ramirez. Do you have genders? The entity. We are not bound by such a thing. Dr. Ramirez. Do you procreate? The entity. There is no need of reproducing. Dr. Ramirez. When did your species come to existence? The entity. We know not and we care not to know when. What we know of our existence is that we simply came into existence where time is non-existent. Dr. Ramirez. But every species, even demons and angels us humans believe and know of, have a beginning. Created by God. The entity. We have no beginning. We have no end. The spirits you label as demons and angels have a beginning and can have an end. We are eternal. Dr. Ramirez. You're telling me demons and angels can die. But they're immortal. The entity, immortal in a sense to you. Mortal in the infinite scope of everything. They are the peak of fourth-dimensional entities and lower fifth entities. We are eight-dimensional beings. Bound not by time and space. Dr. Ramirez. If you're eight-dimensional beings, you surely know the past, present, and future of this dimension. The entity. That is correct. Dr. Ramirez. Then why even bother possessing Jacob, talking to us, doing what you do that affects his parents and sister? The entity. My purpose is unimaginable to you. All you can comprehend is an extremely thin simplification of what I do. And I let you comprehend such a thing because I allow it. Dr. Ramirez. You're an explorer, you say. Do you tell others of what you do? The entity. I report to those who have different purposes to serve our ultimate objective. Dr. Ramirez. Can you describe at all to us what those others' purposes are? What is the ultimate objective your species has? The entity. Those whose purposes names you can comprehend are creators and destroyers. The others have no labels that are unknown to your species. Dr. Ramirez. The nightmares Jacob's mother has, is that from you? The entity. It is. I watch her in her dreams as I watch her partner in your kind's waking reality. Dr. Ramirez. Is what Mrs. Malkin sees at the end of her nightmares. Is that you? The entity. It is a vague, comprehensible glimpse of a part of me. Dr. Ramirez. Do you have a form that you can describe to us? The entity. Not one you can fathom. The mother of the mother seizes what I allow her mind to grasp without shattering her mind into oblivion. Dr. Ramirez. But why? Why do you watch her? Why do you watch Mr. Malkin? The entity. It is part of what you'd call predetermined exploration. It is because I need to do so. Dr. Ramirez. What do you explore? The entity. Memories, emotions, aspirations, and destinations. Dr. Ramirez. You're telling me you know what will happen to them. The entity. Every detail. This conversation is done. We will speak again. My 11-year-old self suddenly gasps as if waking from a nightmare. Just like before. Dr. Ramirez. Jacob. Jacob, are you back with us? Me, Doctor. Oh my God. Doctor, I don't want to go back. I'm breathing heavily and I sound horrified. Dr. Ramirez. What do you mean? What happened, Jacob? Me, they did things to me. They did terrible things. I start dry heaving and end up vomiting. My mother. Sweetie. I can hear he get up from where she's sitting and walks up to me to comfort me, honey. Get a towel and a bowl. I hear what I'm assuming is my dad getting up and leaving the room. Dr. Ramirez. What kind of things? My mother. Doctor. Leave him be, at least for now. Please. Dr. Ramirez. All right. But I'd like to ask him about it later after he gets some rest. He sighs, damn. I'll call you tomorrow and see if he's ready to talk. Okay. My mother. Okay, doctor. The recording ends there. My blood was cold when that CD finished. If I had alcohol on me, I would have downed a few shots of vodka just to ease the strong dread that was flowing inside me. But I hadn't touched liquor for almost 2 years, and I actually felt afraid to even go outside to get some. So I stayed on my chair and took that third CD out and put in the fourth one, which was labeled Number 4, Final Interview with the Possessing Entity. The recording begins. 2 minutes of nothing but silence passes until Dr. Ramirez nervously clears his throat. Dr. Ramirez. Why did you do it? The entity speaks in a new voice. Yet there is another voice layered on top of the one it used before. This new voice has that same underwater quality like the other, but it is inhumanly deep, guttural, cold yet discernible. The entity. It was their time to see my eyes in this reality. Dr. Ramirez. You drove them insane. Dr. Ramirez sounded both angry and scared. The entity. That is their natural reaction to seeing my eyes less filtered in this reality. They asked me to reveal myself before them and who they call Reverend Matthew. Dr. Ramirez. But why is he still able to speak? The entity. Because I allow it. It was destined. He must be capable enough to tell Jacob's older self about me. The clearer picture. Dr. Ramirez. Why his older self? Why not have him tell Jacob now? The entity. His mind is not strong enough to comprehend such things at this time. When he reaches the age of 33, he will then be ready to know what he is destined to know. Dr. Ramirez. Why not have me tell him? The entity. You were not destined to. Your purpose was to converse with me and record it. And you have fulfilled that. Silence for 3 minutes passes until I can hear Dr. Ramirez speak again. Dr. Ramirez. We had no choice, didn't we? I can hear the anger absent from Dr. Ramirez with fearful despair replacing it. The entity. No. You did not. You never had the free will you deluded yourself to have. Free will is non-existent in all things. Your species especially. Your trivial ability to observe the universe. What you call self-awareness has caused you to believe the lie that you are free. Dr. Ramirez. What about you and your kind? I'm guessing you have a choice unlike us. The entity. We have free will and no free will. Choice for us is an incomprehensible paradox that is not translatable and communicable to your species that would not tear your minds into nothingness. Dr. Ramirez. At least tell me or show me at least a glimpse of what your plan is. Tell me, please. The entity. You are not destined to. Reverend Matthew was destined. If you ask him, his ability to speak will be silenced. Dr. Ramirez. You're an abomination. The entity, call me what you wish, but it will change nothing. Our conversing with each other is finished. The recording ends immediately after those final words. I couldn't believe what I just heard. I've known Dr. Ramirez for years as my psychologist until he went missing 3 years ago, and now he sent me this package with these CDs and the letter. Did that entity really control what he was supposed to do? My parents never mentioned any of this to me after they were released from the psychiatric hospital back in 2015. Before they were released, I wasn't even able to visit them. I guess it makes sense that something traumatic caused them to take that long to mentally recover. I was going to ask Reverend Matthew about it, but that temptation was silenced after I listened to the final CD. I took out the 4th CD and put in the 5th one. Then I pressed play with the dread now near overwhelming. The final CD. Number 5. Reverend Matthews' remarks began. Recording begins. Reverend Matthews' raspy old voice speaks to the recorder. I have witnessed things no human should witness. I have experienced things that petrify the mind and soul. Things that make me question my own faith. All faith, in fact. He takes a deep sigh and continues. Reverend Matthew, midnight, on the 29th of December. 3 nights ago, after getting permission from the church, Marissa and Henry Malkin and I demanded the entity possessing Jacob to reveal itself. All 3 of us were angry and tired of the constant fear and horror it imposed on us, along with Cassie, who was thankfully not present during the interviews Dr. Ramirez conducted with the entity. She, however, unbeknownst to us all before she told me herself, were having similar nightmares as her mother. Understandably, she didn't wish to stress her parents and Jacob even more as they were. Luckily, she was at a friend's house on the midnight of the 29th. I guess it was for the best, especially with what happened. I had everything with me. The Holy Bible, my cross, holy water, and even the Quran in the Tanakh. I read every verse that demanded the entity to reveal itself and its name. I regret ever doing so. I'm so sorry, Henry and Marissa. I'm sorry for what happened. Even though I know now that it was all predetermined, I still feel guilt. After I demanded the entity to reveal itself, a low-pitched ringing filled the living room where this took place. The lights burned out and a thick atmosphere of dread filled the air with a strange coldness I've never felt before. Jacob's eyes glowed in the darkness of the room. That was all we could see. And then that seemingly endless darkness we were trapped in was filled with countless familiar and unknown galaxies of this universe. The unknown galaxies gave off a powerful, ominous aura and moved with slow, demented motions. The eyes that belonged to Jacob, but glowed from the entity's presence, then gradually transformed into eyes that the memory of makes my blood go cold and terror consume my soul as it does now. Those eyes. Those eyes. No God, no sane God would ever allow such things to exist. The pupils were of that familiar octagon shape. Yet they took form in multiple shapes so swiftly that it hurts my head trying to remember it. Shapes that I recognized and that were non-Euclidean. And the irises of those soul-piercing abominable eyes remained that purple color, but appeared to be made up of thick depths of layered galaxies and nebulae that let out horrific screams of billions of souls contorted and reverberating. What I saw next, what it showed me, is beyond words. The least I can tell you, Jacob, is that it was traumatic enough to put me on multiple medications and therapy sessions every week to keep me from falling into a bottomless abyss of maddening terror that I'd never return from. What I will say is this: that entity is waiting for you, Jacob. It's waiting for the destined time of when your future actions in this life will bring forth. Something nightmarish beyond all our imaginings will happen, and there's nothing anyone or anything can do to stop it. That explorer will show you more than it has shown me in the near future. And when it does, all those who exist and ever existed, both living and dead, angels and demons, will be inevitably swallowed into the ultimate nightmare that has no end. I was predestined to record this and tell you these things, Jacob. I had no choice, just like how Dr. Ramirez had no choice to not destroy the recordings, and how he had to wait to send you the package you will receive on the night of the 28th of November in 2021. God help ... and the God I believed in doesn't exist. Not that kind. Whatever God exists is something I don't wish to even think of for a second. May heaven have mercy on you. On all of us. Fuck, what am I even saying? Damn it. I can't take this. I'm sorry, Jacob. I'm sorry. And there the final recording ends. After the final CD was done, I slowly took out my earbuds and let them fall to the floor. All I could do was sit back on my chair and let everything soak in. The dread I felt had now mutated into something unfamiliar and vile, which had swallowed my entire mind and body. I still feel it now. For 3 hours I've been getting flashes of this petrifying eye, flashing through my mind. These images and scenes are so vividly nightmarish that they make me want to dry heave. I wish I could fucking dry heave or vomit to get some relief, but I can't. I don't even have the urge to call Reverend Matthews or even try to find out a way to contact Dr. Ramirez. If I'm able to, I'm going to visit my parents and tell them I love them and spend some time with them. I won't mention anything, not one bit of what I've just learned and heard. They don't need to relive those living nightmares. They don't need to remember. As for myself, I'm terrified of what's going to happen and of what's even happening right now. There's this new awareness that shouldn't be experienced. May my sanity be spared. I don't know if I'll ever be able to be normal. I don't know how long my mind can take this before it becomes something that I don't want to imagine. My mind's becoming a door, a window to something awful, and the veil is becoming thinner with each passing minute. I'm scared. So fucking scared. What the fuck is happening? What the fuck is going on? What the hell is happening? Mommy, Daddy, don't remember. Scared. Scared. Fuck.